Hey everyone. I had my sign up there but can't see it. Welcome to our discussion group. Let me just fix something. There. That might fall, but. Hello, we're here to discuss the readings from Sunday. Sorry for a little bit of a delay getting started. So let's just get started. Our theme for September has been divine integrity. And our, I see that you're here. So our theme has been divine integrity, and our messages on Sunday were about commemorating the national tragedy of the terrorist attacks on our nation on September 11th, 2001. And that's tomorrow. And I also want us to remember those in our country we've lost through the terror of gun violence. So I'm going to read what I read on Sunday, a quote by Albert Einstein. Only a life lived for others is worthwhile. 100 times a day, I remind myself that my inner and outer life depend on the labors of others, living and dead, and that I must exert myself in order to give in the same measure as I have received, and I'm still receiving. I'm going to go ahead and read our mission statement. We believe we are all connected to divine intelligence, continually moving through all of life and all living things. We remember to always align ourselves with this divine presence to create healing miracles in our own lives, positively affecting the lives of all those we come into contact with, seen and unseen. We believe that the kingdom of heaven resides within each and every one of us, and that love is all there is. We know and acknowledge that we are one. And our reading on Sunday, the first reading was from the commemorative ceremonies for 9/11 in New York City, and this was from 2011. So the 10-year anniversary. Governor Cuomo quoted Archibald MacLeish, and he wrote, "There are those who say that the freedom of man and mind is nothing but a dream. They are right. It is the American dream." In 1941, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt defined for the world the 4 freedoms on which the American dream is based. This is really important. The 4 freedoms on which the American dream is based. And I want us to think about these as spiritual principles. The first is freedom of speech and freedom of expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God or the goddess in his or her own way, everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from want everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear anywhere in the world. That is our goal. Our strength is in our unity of purpose. To that high concept, there can be no end save victory. So what this quote is saying is it's really mapping out the spiritual principles that America was founded on. As imperfect as we have been as a nation, we have a long-standing tradition of striving for this to be the case for all peoples. Hugs, y'all. So let's just kind of go through freedom of speech. In many, many countries, people do not have freedom of speech and expression. Let's just take a moment and appreciate that we have the freedom to express ourselves. And what that means to us. And let's look at freedom of every person to worship God, to worship the divine in his or her own way, everywhere in the world. And let's think about all the places in the world where that is not an option. It's our birthright to acknowledge and honor God in the way that we see God as being for ourselves. Or not, if you're an atheist, to have a right to be that too. The third is freedom from want everywhere in the world. The fourth is freedom from fear anywhere in the world. So there are ideals here that we always strive for. We never get it perfect, but how amazing it is, how wonderful it is, and how grateful we can be that we have these things. You and I both see, and we're guilty of it ourselves, that we don't even think about, look, if I'm thirsty, I have some water to drink. I have lights on. I have a roof over my head. I have a kitchen, I have a bathroom, I have a bed. So when we find ourselves complaining about things that we don't have, let us remember how much freedom that we have. And let us extend that desire to be that beacon of freedom for the rest of the world. That is a spiritual commitment. And let us resist the temptation to complain. Let's resist the temptation, it's human nature, to look at things and to be offended by them, to look at people and be offended by them. It's understandable, but let us strive to be in that place of gratitude. But for the grace of God, we live in a country where we have freedom. And let's bring others into check. I can think of a couple family members that I was like, I can't believe you're complaining. Look at how much that you actually have. And I have to say that to myself often too. We have our freedom. Let us keep it. Does anyone have a question or something that they want to say about that topic? Don't you think we take freedom for granted? We just have to check ourselves. The second reading. Yes, we're being given a wake-up call. That's right. And 9/11 was a wake-up call. And every school shooting is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that we, when we don't have those problems, our spiritual nature wants to help others to not have those problems. That's our spiritual nature. When we see people being hateful and racist and misogynist, you know what that is? It's horrible. And terrorists, it's horrible. And it's also an indicator that fear is running them. What's the name of the book? Love is something about fear. Love and fear. I'll think of it. The second reading is from the National Day of Service and Remembrance. I don't remember. I don't think I wrote down what year this was. Hang on so I can show you the book in case you missed this on Sunday. This is the book. It's called September Morning that I took the readings from. I found it. It's 10 years of poems and readings from the 9/11 ceremonies in New York City. And I like this reading. I did read this one last year too. Stop and smell the roses. Yes. You know what I've been appreciating? See those flowers? My friend Rena, who had this apartment before she needed to move and then I moved in, she planted those flowers out on the porch here. And I have just so appreciated them. They've really had a long life. They've looked like that for a couple of weeks. Yes, Rose talked to somebody at her loan place about voter registration and raising awareness. Yeah, we don't want to lose our spiritual, connection to one another. And our democracy requires us to have that spiritual connection to one another. Democracy only works if we help one another to have the freedoms that we enjoy. It's a time of great challenge spiritually for a lot of people. So, the second reading is as follows. The 9/11 National Day of Service and Remembrance was created as part of the Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act. You might want to look that up. It was a while ago. The Serve America Act. To his last day, Ted Kennedy devoted his life to serving the country he loved and understood that each person can make a huge difference in the world. I believe that Ted Kennedy, he died at the end of August, because I remember I went to Boston and it was the end of August. So I don't remember what year it was. I went with my folks. We were in the North End, the Italian end, and I saw Ted Kennedy's hearse go by. We were lining the streets and saw his hearse go by. So he was a good man. He had his problems, Ted Kennedy, but he was a good man. And, we need more people that hold public office that are true public servants like he was. To his last day, Ted Kennedy devoted his life to serving the country he loved and understood that each person can make a huge difference in this world. Each person can make a huge difference in this world. I mentioned before that in the course of 1 month, we lost Joanne McCardle, Nina Trebone. I just heard that we lost her. These people were participants at Church of Spirituality. And sadly, this week I saw Evie Stewart's obituary in the local paper here. She was the only member of our group that was a local that I knew. And I could not believe it when I came across Evie's obituary. I hadn't seen her in a while. She hadn't been coming to the meetings, and then lo and behold, she left us. But I can feel her spirit with us. And I have to express to you that it was an unexpected gift for me to know and to hear from the people that told me, not about Evie, but Joanne and Nina, that what I do here, they loved and it made a difference for them, and I just feel so humbled by that, because that's what it's all about. I feel too insignificant to just take that on like, wow, I made a difference there. They showed up, they were dedicated, they were supported, they loved this work, they got a lot out of this work. And when Albert Einstein here in this reading, and I'm telling you this to offer to you that we all can feel that, and I'm sure that you have at times. It's a beautiful awareness that you made a difference in somebody's life because you decided to go out on a limb and to do what you felt guided and moved to do. And you can share your experience in the chat with that if you want to. Ted Kennedy liked to tell this story. An old man walking along a beach saw a young man picking up a starfish and throwing it out to sea. "Why are you doing that?" the old man said. The young man explained that the starfish had been stranded on the beach by a receding tide and could die in the daytime sun. "But the beach goes on for miles," the old man said, "and there are so many starfish. How can your effort make any difference?" Without hesitation, the young man threw another starfish back to safety in the sea. He looked at the old man, smiled, and said, "It will make a difference to that one." How are we making a difference? What do we want our legacy to be? And the sermon on Sunday was entitled, hang on, I gotta look at exactly what I had titled it. What we leave behind is whatever we stood for. And I want to say, because of the 3 people that I mentioned that we lost that used to attend these meetings, I knew Evie the most. And what Evie stood for was, when she showed up at the meetings, you guys might remember Evie. She was always engaging, and she had like a happy, cheerful tone in her voice. You remember her? Yeah. Barbara remembers. And we would chit chat. Sometimes we would get into a little like local conversation. I'd be like, "Oh, you guys don't know what we're talking about." But she and I had a mutual friend. His name was Stephen Scotty. He was my piano tuner growing up. Huge support of mine. Great guy. Eccentric, and so Evie and I, we had some shared mutual friends and experiences here. So I remember what she stood for, and I did find out about when her memorial service is, and I'm going to go to it. It's the end of this month. What are we leaving behind? What have you stood for? And if you feel like it's not a complete, well, it's not going to be complete till you leave, right? Then let's work on that. I meet a lot of people that never think about their legacy. What are you going to leave behind, right? Let's think about that. Let's shove all the other things that are not that important. Maybe we think they're important. Shove those things aside and say, but what am I leaving behind? I came across a book. I don't recall the title. It was a library book, and the temporary library is housed right next door, so maybe I'll go look for it tomorrow. But it was a book about actual spirit visitations from people who died in the Twin Towers and in the plane crash in Pennsylvania. And their loved ones spoke of them. I mean, first of all, some of them came back and then their dream state, and they actually saw their spirit in the house after they had passed. But the stories about these people who died on 9/11, I just want to read you one because it's relevant. I want to read one to you. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll find one. I am the brother-in-law of firefighter Thomas J. Foley, who perished in the South Tower. Tommy's life was always about giving and doing for others, from volunteering to the local fire department to playing Santa for the kids at Christmas. All who knew and worked with Tommy were inspired by his zest for life, his bright smile, and quick wit. Tommy's true passion was to become a New York City firefighter. In July 1994, that dream came true. In his short career, he made many headline rescues, both with Squad 41 and Rescue 3. Whenever he was questioned about his heroism, he always gave credit to everyone on the team who was involved. We would like to ask you never to forget his sacrifice and all those who lost their lives on September 11th. May this day be remembered and revered by future generations as a lesson in sorrow, but also in humanity. Tommy left behind his parents, Tom and Pat Foley, his sister Joanne, and his brother Danny, also a New York City firefighter with Rescue 3, and many nieces and nephews. And then they asked, we'd like you to join us in honoring Tommy and all the others who perished by participating in the many events, scholarships, and foundations set up in their honor. I know that Tommy would thank all the members of FDNY for their courage and commitment, as well as others who worked tirelessly in the rescue and recovery efforts. On behalf of Tommy and the Foley family, we'd also like to thank the brave men and women of our armed forces, both past and present, for their continued sacrifice and heroism. Tommy, we love you and miss you. God bless America. I want to end this evening with going to play this, and I'm going to just close it down right afterwards. You will be the first to hear it. After September 11th, 2001, I was living in Nashville, and on September 11th, 2001 was a Tuesday. On that Sunday, in the local paper there, the Tennessean, there was a list of all the people who had perished in the Twin Towers. One of them was, I didn't write down her name at the time, but I do recall she was a spiritual counselor, as am I, and I was then too. And I wrote this song. And I'm going to turn the lights down. I'm just going to let this play, and then I'm going to just shut this down entirely. So this is my song called The Day the Whole World Changed. I will turn the light down, and then we'll say goodnight. So if you have any questions or anything, now's the time. Scattershot 8 is leaving behind truth because I respect people. Good. Let's think about Abby. Let's think about Rita from last week, who was very upset in the chat because Rita was homeless. Her handle was is Don't Drink the Kool-Aid. So keep her in our prayers. I don't see her here tonight. So thank you. Namaste. I'm going to turn off the light and leave you with this. Hopefully you'll be able to hear it okay.
Saw your picture in the paper here this morning. Never before had seen your face or heard your name. Said how the whole thing happened without warning. It was so insane. As I sat here in the sunlight with my coffee, I watched my teardrops fall onto the page. For one moment I forgot that you were not me. We were the same. The day the whole world changed. I never saw so many people come together. Everyone was feeling all this pain. We struggled to believe it would get better, and we prayed.
It's about love. Good night.